So you're moving to Central Oregon, but you don't necessarily want to move to Bend. You want to be somewhere else in Central Oregon, but you just don't know where exactly in Central Oregon you'd prefer to be right now. And that's going to be kind of the goal of what you're watching in today's video. Bend is a fantastic town, but it's not for everybody, and it's not the center of the universe as it pertains to Central Oregon. A lot of people think that Central Oregon starts with Bend and ends with Bend, and that's the end of it. But the reality is that Bend makes up a piece of the pie associated with Central Oregon living. And Central Oregon is a fantastic place to be. And depending on how you prefer to live and what your lifestyle is, there are different towns that would best serve you. And also from an affordability standpoint as well. Bend is the most expensive town in Central Oregon, and a lot of people are looking for something that's a little bit more cost feasible or of more value. And maybe relocating from another area to Bend is just like, it's trading apples for apples. There's no real advantage to be gained from an affordability aspect. Whereas you could look into other towns in Central Oregon, like Redmond, like Lapine, like Sisters, or Prineville, and really do some due diligence as to what those towns are all about and what they represent to see if it's the right fit from a cultural standpoint, but also from an affordability standpoint as well. Cost of living is going to be way different depending on where you live in Central Oregon. But one thing is a constant. Central Oregon is Central Oregon for everybody. The amenities, everything that we love about the area, the location, the mountains, the sunshine, the lakes, the rivers, the hiking, the biking. I mean, all of the actual activities that we get to enjoy are accessible from any area of Central Oregon. And that is the one constant. And what we need to uncover in this video, maybe you're looking for some confirmation bias, where you should be moving to in Central Oregon, because each town represents something different. They're all at different stages of their development, but they're all sharing the unique features of the Central Oregon region. So the goal of today's video is to help you uncover which town outside of Bend could be the absolute best fit for you when you are making your way to Central Oregon to call this place your new home. So stick around, we're jumping into this video right now. Hey, if this is your first time to the channel or it's your 50th, it doesn't matter to me. And you want to know everything there is to know about living, eating, sleeping, working, playing, the affordability aspect of living in Redmond versus Prineville versus Bend, then subscribe to the channel, tap that notification bell below so you can be the first to know about the current market happenings here in Bend and the rest of Central Oregon. My name's Ryan, and I've lived in Bend for over 30 years. Zach and I, we get calls and texts every day from people just like you looking for help with their next transaction as it relates to real estate here in Central Oregon. So whether you're looking to make that transaction a possibility in the next 9 days or 90 days or even beyond that, it doesn't matter to us. Give us a call or shoot us a text, and we can set up a time to discuss what the next course of action should be pertaining to your real estate situation and potentially your relocation situation here to Central Oregon. So with that out of the way now, we're going to be jumping into just this whole topic of affordability, the cost of living comparison between several different towns within Central Oregon's region. Because Bend, again, gets all the notoriety. It kind of feels like the centerpiece of Central Oregon. It is the biggest town. It also is the most famous of the towns in Central Oregon. But a lot of people learn more about other respective towns that could be a better fit for them to live in Central Oregon based off of their visit to Bend. It used to be that way with Sun River. A lot of people would go visit Sun River way back in the, say, early 90s, late 80s, when Bend really was more of a small, sleepy, blue-collar mill town back then. But then that's when people started to discover Bend and maybe the possibility of living in Bend. And so now, 30, 40 years later, here we are. Everything's kind of a full circle type thing where Bend is now a huge tourist attraction, and people come from all over the country and maybe even all over the world to take a look at Bend and enjoy the amenities and the vacation aspect of what the town can offer. But there is other areas of Central Oregon that those that are visiting for the first time or second time or maybe third time to Bend, they start to discover and learn more about Prineville or learn more about Redmond or Sisters or Lapine. And maybe, just maybe, they start thinking about, okay, what if we lived here in Central Oregon? Zach and I get calls on a pretty regular basis from different style of clients that are literally, I mean, they're looking specifically at Prineville or they're looking specifically at Lapine, and they never even mention Bend. It's not necessarily a, hey, we're interested in Bend and Central Oregon and then expand from there. I mean, we get that too, but we've got very, very educated clients that will call us and they say specifically, we're looking for Lapine or we're looking for Sisters or we're looking for Redmond. And so with this video, we're going to be jumping into, say, the cost comparative analysis, say, of what it's like to live in Bend, what it costs to live in Bend, what the median home price is, versus what the cost of living, say, would be in these other towns, because there's different personalities with these towns, there's different cultures with these towns. And there are different prices associated with living in these towns. But like we said earlier, everything is a constant when you're in Central Oregon. So, with that being said, Bend will be the baseline for what we're comparing living in these other towns to, so you can get a better understanding. Because you already know about Central Oregon, you already know you want to be here. Let's just find you the right town. So, we're going to start first with the second biggest town in Central Oregon, which is Redmond, and is often the most compared town to Bend because it's like big brother, little brother status. But Redmond is really starting to close the gap on Bend with a lot of different things, but we're going to just compare the cost of living right now. So we're going to start with Redmond. Now, before we go too far down the Bend versus Redmond rabbit hole as it relates to cost of living, let's just talk about Deschutes County as a whole for a second. Right now, we've got 215,000 people living in the county. By 2045, it's been said that we could have up to 340,000 people living in Deschutes County alone, an increase of 125,000 people within just a 20-year window. That is remarkable. Where are these people going to live? Certainly, a lot of them are going to live in Bend, but there's going to be plentiful amounts that are living in Sisters, living in Lapine, and living in, of course, Redmond. Now, Redmond is a very fast-growing town. It has its own culture, its own personality compared to Bend. It's often viewed as kind of like the little brother to Bend, but Redmond folk don't like hearing that. They are their own person. They are their own vibe, their own culture. That's for darn sure. About 40,000 or just under 40,000 people live in Redmond. It's often referred to as the hub of Central Oregon because the fairgrounds are there. The airport is there. It's close to Smith Rock State Park, which is probably among the most popular state parks in the area, attracting almost 1 million people a year to Smith Rock State Park, which is just north of Redmond. But the median price for a single family home in Redmond generally right now is about 525,000. It's been over 500 grand for a significant period of time, but 525 is a good baseline. And you compare that to Bend, same home, same style, is going to be roughly 750,000. So you're looking at a $225,000 difference in housing alone. And these towns are only about 15 miles apart from each other, and they're both growing at a very, very rapid clip. But again, the hub of Central Oregon, the airport, the fairgrounds, again, there are many amenities in the Redmond area that are more accessible to the city of Redmond than, say, in Bend. What I said earlier in the video, it's like, doesn't matter where you are in Central Oregon, you can access everything. But Redmond has a convenience factor that Bend doesn't necessarily have for many things. Now, if you compare the other costs of living, say food, groceries, beverages, utilities to run the home, things like that, taxes. I mean, it's all going to be relatively similar as Bend. I mean, the big elephant in the room is going to be the housing aspect of it. But again, Redmond is growing at a rate that is really starting to attract a lot of people that are coming from larger cities that are maybe afraid of living in too small of a town. So that's an interesting thing that's going on right now with Redmond as opposed to Bend, because Bend kind of crossed that threshold where people from the big city are now comfortable living in Bend because it feels like a very small town to them, but it's also busy enough to kind of keep their mind going because of the fast pace of life that they're used to in their previous town that they were living in. Now, if we just try to give a generality in terms of the cost of living, Redmond versus Bend. Say Bend, if you made $100,000 in Bend, you'd have to make roughly 85 to 86,000 in Redmond to be kind of equal, if that makes sense, right? So that's kind of the difference in cost of living. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, the median income for a household in Bend is roughly 88,000 as of this recording, and so that makes the affordability aspect of living and purchasing a home in Bend very, very difficult. There's a very small percentage of people that can do that right now based off of that income alone. And so they could be looking elsewhere. But again, if you're making 100,000 in Bend, you'd be making roughly 86,000 in Redmond to be basically even keeled. Now, that is what the comparative analysis would be between Bend and Redmond. Let's take a look at another town in Central Oregon, starting with Lapine coming up next. Now, Lapine is a fantastic town in its own right, about 30 miles to the south of Bend, but it's way different. Okay, this might be the one town that's completely different and off the grid compared to Bend, and that is for good reason. There's a lot of people that want to live in a town like that. We've got clients that will call us and specifically ask for Lapine because there is a lot of value. Lapine was just recently incorporated as a city, going back as recent as just 15 years ago or so in 2010. And that is what's interesting about the area there. Now, the cost of a home in Lapine, the median family home right now is going to be roughly 385 to $400,000 for a three-bed, two-bath home, standard size home. Compare that to Bend, which we're at $750,000. Now, again, there's about 3,000 people in the city limits of Lapine, but there is a sprawling feel of more people that live within the surrounding area that say Lapine is their hometown. Around the area, there's probably another 10,000, maybe 15,000 people within the surrounding area that would call Lapine their home base. This is in South Deschutes County. Elevation is roughly 4,200 feet compared to Bend's 3,600 feet. So the vibe and the demographics of that in terms of, say, the elevation are going to be much different. So you're going to have a different vibe and a different culture. There's going to be way more snow up there. It's going to be a little bit more remote. There's going to be less amenities. There's going to be a lot less of everything compared to Bend. But a lot of people are looking for that specifically. They just need to be within range of, say, a Bend or a Redmond or an airport, something along those lines. And that's exactly what Lapine provides people. Because if you go back about 12 to 15 years, and just looked at the trajectory of Lapine's growth, it is among the fastest growing small towns in the state of Oregon based off of what we've looked at over the last several years. Now, if Bend had a median income of 100,000, that's what you need or what you earned. You need to earn roughly 70,000 to be on par with Bend, if that makes sense. So roughly speaking, Lapine is about 30% more affordable in terms of its cost of living than, say, living in Bend. Now, of course, Bend has different pockets too, right? You've got a median value of a home on the west side at roughly 1.1 million, and then on the east side or northeast side, you're looking at 630, maybe a little below that too, for a median home value in the city of Bend. So there's different versions. Lapine is relatively consistent across the board. There are some fantastic homes in Lapine that are out in the forest or near the river because the Little Deschutes goes through there and the Deschutes River goes through Lapine in that area as well. And so there is a lot to like about Lapine. It's just a different vibe and a different culture. You've got Lapine State Park up there. You've got Paulina Lake. You got East Lake. You got a couple little golf courses within the area. Sun River is very accessible as well, but it's just a different lifestyle that many people want. There are great grocery stores up in Lapine. There's some restaurants up there. There's a budding community of all kinds of little businesses, mom and pop style. And so it's something that you could really take advantage of because the value really is there. When we say that it's 30% of the cost of living a Bend, I mean, reality speaking, I mean, it's like, you could be looking at a home that's 375,000 that would otherwise be 750 in Bend. So that is, I mean, that's a huge discrepancy there, and there's great value to be had, and you're still in Central Oregon. So Lapine versus Bend, very interesting metrics there, but the cost of living certainly favors those that choose Lapine. Next up is going to be Prineville. Okay, what is Prineville really like to live in from a cost of living standpoint compared to, say, Bend? Prineville is really off the beaten path. Every town that we're really kind of comparing Bend to, and just in general in Central Oregon, is going to be either on Highway 97 or, with the exception of Sisters, it's on Highway 20, which also goes into the Willamette Valley where the majority of Oregon's population is. So they get a lot of traffic, a lot of people coming in from the Valley, Portland area through Sisters on a regular basis. But you got Prineville, which is remote. It's way east. It's not even into Deschutes County. It's in Crook County, but it's also a very budding and bustling little small town that a lot of the locals probably don't want you to know about. But that's okay because the data centers have already discovered it. You've got big tech hub data centers in there, and some of the most noteworthy names that you're familiar with, whether it's Facebook or whether it's Google or Amazon. I mean, there's data centers in there right now. And that is kind of the hub and what is really kind of giving Prineville just some real notoriety right now because for the longest time, it's one of the older towns in Oregon. We're talking about 5,000 people, and it took 25, 30 years to even get up to 8,000 people from 5,000 people. But now it's starting to grow a little bit. I mean, I'm not saying it's like a huge town yet, but I mean, it's starting to get, it's on the map. Okay. There's 12,000 people there. In the Prineville area, the median home price is about $400,000. You compare that to Bend, we're talking about 43% less in terms of the cost of housing in Prineville versus Bend. And a lot of people like the remoteness or the remote level of Prineville versus Bend because it's just one of those places that is off the beaten path, but there is a great lifestyle over there. There's a great vibe, a great community of people. There's some great businesses that are just kind of up and coming that are not necessarily data centers. And there's just real value to be had. If the median home price is about 400,000 over there, you can bet the cost of living is going to be substantially lower in Prineville than in Bend. And that's one thing that people really need to know is that Crook County is kind of its own animal over there. It's got great outdoor activities, great access to a lot of things. Smith Rock State Park is much closer to Prineville than it is in Bend. You got Prineville Reservoir, you got Lake Billy Chinook is more accessible. The Crooked River is a fantastic river over there, and you can bet the 𝐀𝐞𝐬𝐧 are some of the most remote mountains that are accessible, and they provide the same opportunities for recreation like mountain biking or hiking that the Cascades do over here in a much more bustling and just kind of like rubbing elbows style where we're just there's so much traffic. You have to get permits all the time now for the Cascades for certain hikes and certain things. If you want to park up there in the mountains off Century Drive, so there's a gambit of advantages of living and maybe considering Prineville for a slower pace of life. I mean, the grocery stores, the infrastructure, all that stuff is already there and it is growing. It could be a good place for a little investment. I mean, there's a lot of bigger builders that are really investing in Prineville because they can expect the population to continue to increase over time. But the reality is that there is immense value when it comes to cost of living in Prineville, comparatively speaking to Bend. And Prineville's got that Western vibe to it that a lot of people are interested right now, or they're drawn to it. So again, Prineville versus Bend, two fantastically different towns from one another, but still Prineville. It's on the map and it's a great spot to be. Lastly, we're going to Sisters, a small town kind of to the west of Bend, a little northwest, but it's within that little triangle of Redmond, Bend, and Sisters. And it's a smaller town. It's the smallest of them, but it gets plenty of traffic. A lot of people drive through it. It's a small western town. Great little ambience, great vibe. The cost of living in Sisters is comparable to Bend, to be honest. In fact, there are some of my research suggested that it costs more money to live in Sisters than in Bend. Now, it's a small town, right? And so the median home price is going to fluctuate back and forth each and every month. Let's just call it what it is. It's basically the same as in Bend, about 750,000. There's going to be plenty of $1 million plus homes in the area, but they don't sell very often. I mean, there's huge ranches too. I mean, I know there's something up out in the Sisters area right now. It's listed for like $18 million. So the day that sells, okay. Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting median home price for that particular month. The reality is that Sisters is a great town of about 3 to 5,000 people, and it's got a just a real great vibe to it. Western feel, small town vibe. It's a very, very attractive town for people to go through and just kind of visit. The restaurants are great. Coffee shops, the bakery, Sisters Coffee is originated obviously in Sisters, but it's close to it's basically close to the foothills of the mountains. And it's just on the way to the valley. It's Black Butte Ranch is nearby. I mean, it's a great little resort, but everything is accessible too for Sisters. Bend is about 20 miles away. Redmond's about 15 miles away. And so you have a little buffer, but you can still get to the towns that have maybe the amenities that Sisters doesn't necessarily offer. And so that really kind of gives Sisters a great advantage because, well, I would say the big disadvantage is going to be the fact that all roads to Bend go through Sisters if you're coming over Sandy Am Pass. And that's something that you have to deal with. And so there is a really large volume of traffic that goes through Sisters on holiday weekends or just on weekends in general. That's one of the disadvantages of Sisters is because it's such a small town. You the highway goes right through it. They're trying to reroute it right now, which is great. But if we're comparing just like the cost of living, okay, some of the utilities, some of the groceries, some of maybe the restaurant bills might be a little bit higher out in Sisters, depending on what it is you're going for, just based off of the fact that it's kind of remote. And sometimes those amenities or those types of products or services are a little bit harder to get. But if you're comparing Bend to Sisters, we're going to be basically, 100,000 and it's going to be roughly 95 to 105,000 with Sisters in terms of income generation. So the cost there, I mean, is going to be relatively similar. Housing is going to be relatively the same. And you've got just some really interesting amenities, but it's kind of remote. And a lot of people like that quietness. And there's a lot of little subdivisions outside of Sisters that are just really just secret gems. We sold a house out there in 𝐊𝐶𝐽 not too long ago, and there's just a lot of people that don't really know that subdivision exists, but there are plentiful amounts of them out there. You just got to know where to look. And so, again, just to kind of wrap this video up, Bend certainly is, kind of a celebrity when it comes to the Northwest, the Western region of the United States. And then even further, if you look at the entire country, people from the East Coast have heard of Bend, Oregon, because it's on the map. And that's not going to change anytime soon. It's going to continue to grow. It does have the highest cost of living, but you can find value living in Central Oregon in other towns like Redmond, which is, 15% cheaper than Bend, or Lapine, which is 30 to 45% cheaper. In Prineville, which is, 43% in terms of its housing, it's cheaper than Bend. So there's value to be had. It's just a matter of being willing and able to do your due diligence on these respective towns to see if they're the right fit. I mean, from a political standpoint, of course, the bigger city generally, is a little bit more moderate, maybe left leaning. And then you got some towns that are smaller in the area that might lean a little bit more right if that's something that's important to you as well, like-minded people. But that's ultimately what we're trying to do with this video, is just provide some context. Central Oregon is a fantastic area, and there are so many things to love about the area, but you don't have to be in one spot when it comes to where you live. You can find the spot that's right for you, whether that's based off of the like-mindedness of people, the amenities that are offered, the outdoor activity access, or just in general, the cost of living. Because again, if you live in Central Oregon, you're going to be able to access just about everything, whether it's going to Mount Bachelor 20 minutes away from Bend, or if it's going to Mount Bachelor 45 minutes away from Redmond, or, just do that same exercise with any other thing like Lake Billy Chinook or Prineville Reservoir or Smith Rock State Park, or, whatever said golf course you want to use. I mean, it's all going to be accessible. It's a small enough area where you're not in LA where you feel like just driving 10 miles any given day can take an hour to 2 hours. You're going to be able to get to where you need to go in a relatively short amount of time. So that's the advantage. You're still in a small area, but you get to choose what best suits you. My name's Ryan. I'm a licensed broker with eXp Realty here in the state of Oregon. I am very thankful for you guys watching these videos. If it's your time to reach out, it starts with you. Call us or text us, and we'll just kind of get the ball rolling. And we will help you figure out where the best spot is for you in Central Oregon. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.